Hello everyone, and welcome back to Agrarian Skies. We are up in the sky at my laser drills, and if we turn around, we see the other two laser drills. They are now all fully connected and functioning, and if we look down, we see 3 additional reactors, and I believe last time you were with me I only had one of those built. Maybe, no, I think I built the second one last episode. So now I have 4 of these reactors in total. 3 of them and a part of the energy from the 4th one are used purely to power these laser drills. And I don't know how much of this I'd done last episode, but I've hooked up a bunch of these cobblestone generators. I've started moving over some of the resources I got from the auto-sieving setup. And yeah, I've just slowly put them into my system. Which brings me actually to the first point before I forget it. And I'm not getting FPS lag as much these days, but there's some sort of sluggishness in the responsiveness of the game. Hoping that'll go away once I upgrade my RAM, but it'll take a while. Anyway, if you remember, we needed... Firstly, we have an unclaimed reward here, the zombie killing quest. I'll just do that. I wonder what else I supposedly completed. Oh. Ah, I know. Okay. So first thing I built was a deep storage unit. And I'll show you how to make those in just a second. That's what I use to store my cobblestone, because the deep storage unit is like a super barrel, if you like that way of thinking. It is a storage device for one kind of item and one kind only, but it can store over 2 billion of it, so that's nice. Take that reward back. And I also built all these things. That's the molecular, the assembler chamber that I built last time, the 7x7x7 thing that's auto-crafting for me. So that's nice. And finally, in the raw ores section, I now have the 8 ardite on me, so I can manual submit that, and don't need the pump, don't need the precharger, I'll take this reward back. Okay, actually, what's this? Oh, this isn't so bad. I think I might almost be able to do this. I need a stack of gold blocks, stack of iron blocks, stack of copper blocks, stack of bronze. No, actually only 16 bronze blocks. Stack of tin blocks, stack of aluminum, stack of... Nope, 16 aluminum brass. 16 aluminite, 16 blocks of steel. That's not so bad. I can do that pretty easily. You know how to make all of these, and I just have to put the resources into one system or another. Now the reward bags. What did I get? A good, a greater, and an epic. Okay. Let's go through these. The ender quarry is kind of important. I'm putting that here. And the heart canister can go right here. The interfaces can go into my system, as can the apples, I guess. Okay, reward bag, good. That's junk. That's like a downgraded version of the Invar spikes. Blood runes. I might be happy to have those eventually, but right now they're useless. And the epic. Silk Touch book. I mean, it's okay, I guess. Now, I was going to go over some of the things I built, because I automated a lot of the stuff that I said I was going to automate. Don't fly into the lasers, they hurt. I don't die instantly from them, so I can fly in and survive a tick or 2 of those. I think they take off maybe 3 hearts and set me on fire for a while. These machines here are manual, they are not automated at all. That's for recharging and doing the manual things that I still need to do from time to time. And I know the frame rate is steady for me, but it just feels like it's sort of glitching out for a second at a time, maybe just a split second, maybe, I don't know. But supposedly it's running at 30 FPS, so I don't know how noticeable it is on your end. So what I've done is I've set up a bunch of pulverizers here, and then on top of each of them, and they're all set to accept input from the top and output to the back, and they output both their primary and secondary result. As you can see from the sulfur ore, for example, we just got a netherrack as well, in addition to the 24 sulfur. And the way that works is I have a precision export bus on top, and I use precision buses because you can give them more than one item to export. The basic ones only, like these, they can only take one item, so they will, I would need a single pulverizer for every single type of item that I want to pulverize, and this way I can combine some that I don't end up having so many of anyway. I mean, I don't end up getting a ton of this salpeter ore, for example, so having a single pulverizer just for that purpose would be pointless, but I want to automate at least a lot of what I'm doing. And so these are all set up to import anything that can be pulverized. And then over here there's just some pulverizers that deal with making gravel and sand and dust. So this one here takes sand, makes dust. These two here take gravel, make sand. And these three take cobble and make gravel. And I've got that same setup again over there. I'm not certain if that's really necessary, but just in case I build it. And my cobblestone generation is more than keeping up. I'm producing far more than I need for these, but there's a quest later on that requires me to have millions of cobblestone, 40 something million. So I just got started and already built a fair few cobblestone generators. The final pulverizer on the end is a little different, and I'll get to that. Same for the induction smelters. And these induction smelters, I use them to process my nether ores. The way I'm currently doing it now, this doesn't get me any advantage over pulverizing these directly, but I get rich slag out of it, and if I'm ever short on a resource, I can use the rich slag to triple my ore outcome from certain ores. So for example, if I'm desperately low on emeralds, then I can stop using the nether emerald ore in... which one has it? One of those should. This one. And instead I can combine it with the rich slag to get me 3 emerald ores from that, so 6 emeralds instead of 4. Just something to be aware of, I guess. This one again we'll get to. And these furnaces here, they just import stuff. Kind of different are these 3 here, the ones that have these level emitters behind them. A level emitter is basically depending on how much of a certain item I have in my ME system, this will output a redstone signal or not. For example, this one is set up on glass, and it will emit a redstone signal when I have 640 or less glass. And once that emits a redstone signal, this precision export bus imports sand into it exports sand into this furnace. And what that does is it ensures I always have 10 stacks of sand in my system, because once the number dips below that, this furnace here will start smelting more sand into glass. And slightly different but very similar are these two here. This one emits a redstone signal when I have more than 320 raw rubber in my system. So if I have more than 5 stacks of it, which I might need that for sticky pistons, so I'm keeping it just in case. But if I have more than 320, and I'm currently not because I disabled it for recording, but once my MFR farm is active, I'm getting rubber. So if I have more than those 5 stacks I want to keep, this export bus basically takes that raw rubber and puts it into this furnace, smelting it into rubber bars. And just like that, if I have more than 5 stacks of the rubber bars, any more that I get will be smelted into raw plastic, which I kind of, I need-ish. This thing here, by the way, is kind of annoying to navigate right now. I'll put in some blocks to help with that, certain elevator blocks, for example. Aim will make it easier. I also added another auto-sieving setup. I haven't quite finished automating this yet. Well, I have not put the outputs, those crushed and broken ores. I'm not quite processing these just the way I want to yet, but I will get to that in between episodes, because I'm already taking way too long explaining all this. So instead of explaining all the autocrafting stuff that I've done, and I've given it a fair few recipes, all the reactor parts that I was making, and some chest stuff, the storage devices for making, for example, these 64K storage things, I automated all that. But instead of just going through it, I thought it might be more interesting to give you an example of how I go about doing that. So for an upcoming project, which I hope we'll see this episode because I will do a lot of cutting, I need harvesters. Now harvesters require plastic sheets. That's no problem because I'm making raw plastic, so that's just a simple crafting recipe. Just give me raw plastic. And by the way, this ME terminal, I can search in it for items, and I've set it up to be synchronized with the NEI search. So if I search for an item in here, it'll automatically also be searched for in the NEI. Fairly neat, I think. Now I go to the pattern encoder, and I will talk to the device next to it. I will talk about the device next to it in just a second. Okay, and for raw plastic in this configuration, make 4 plastic sheets. As we know, I don't think I had that recipe in there already. I didn't. Good. And I don't need this anymore. Now, for the harvester, I also need a machine frame. And machine frames can be made with all sorts of different glass. So if I just shift click these into the pattern encoder, it'll have a random selection of glass, but the system doesn't really know. If it doesn't have the normal glass, it doesn't know how to handle the other types of glass, because I don't have those. So that's why I will set it up in such a way that it has the recipe proper, basically. Don't make me anything, I want the glass. Because there's constantly items being put into and out of the system, by the way, almost 500,000 cobble. It keeps shifting, and so I'm hovering over something and it gets shifted because an item gets stacked in before it or gets moved out. And that can be a little confusing. I also need gold. And I can help that by searching for the items so I don't have all of my items in a single screen. By the way, tons of diamonds. No longer a shortage of those. And that's after making 3 big reactors. But yeah, for this recipe I prefer using the normal pattern encoder way instead of shift clicking it in. And that's the way I want to make machine frames. I have tons of iron and not so much aluminum, so I prefer to use that. And now let's go back to the harvester. I also need gold. Okay, that's fine. I need shears and a redstone reception coil. So give me some redstone as well. I don't know if he already knows how to make those. I don't believe he does. No, he doesn't. Okay. So clearing this, I can also make shears. And it should be noted that all this automation is, for some items, I will only be crafting those a few times. So I wouldn't normally, I think, use automation for this, but I want to just basically show an example of how it works and how to do it, so that it's all very, very nice and clear. Now, I need an Invar axe, and to do that, I need Invar. Invar is made from 2 iron and how much ferrous do I have? A bunch. Okay, so I'll use ferrous. Actually, I need more than that. I need twice the amount I require for the recipe. No. There we go. Ferrous. And first things first, I will craft the item manually once. So I have some Invar in my system. And this induction smelter automatically outputs into the system via this precision import bus. It's actually running quite smoothly now that I've got that farm shut down. I will be building more of them though. Maybe not this episode, I don't know. Explaining this takes longer than I thought, but again, I will only be doing it this detailed once, so just bear with me, I guess. Now I take the Invar out. And now I'll make a recipe that doesn't really make sense. I'll tell it that 2 iron plus 1 ferrous makes 3 invar. And that's not a recipe. I mean, if I try to put it in here, for example, it will realize that it's not a valid recipe. So we've got that red background to it, and it can't craft invar that way. Obviously, we know that. That's not the way to make invar. But the machine and the system can actually use thermal expansion machines quite well. So instead of taking the recipe and putting it into... I don't even know what to... Fine. Instead of taking the recipe and trying to somehow manually craft it, or instead of always going about the business of making invar by hand, I'm putting the recipe in this ME interface. And then I'm setting it to crafting mode. Not really relevant. I think I can probably set this to only using stocked items while exporting. That's not really relevant for what I'm doing. I'm setting it to blocking mode. And by hitting it with a crescent hammer, you can change the direction that the arrow is pointing at. And I want it to be pointing down, which means it's basically working with this this inventory only. And this just sees it as an inventory, basically, input from the top, so it sees that it can put items in here. And what I've basically told the system is that if you want to make invar, here's how to. Take 2 iron and 1 ferrous and shove it into this inventory. And that obviously will work. If you put 2 iron and 1 ferrous in here, it'll make invar. So that's a very neat way to incorporate different sorts of recipes into the system. For example, if I want to craft the nether quartz dust, I would need a pulverizer. So I've just told this thing a recipe. Take 1 nether quartz and that makes 1 nether quartz dust. Not in a crafting grid, but in a pulverizer. So that's what this is doing. Should probably set this to point at the device as well. You don't really need to, it should be fine without, but if you're cramming things close to each other, it might be confused about which inventory to use. So just to be safe, I put the arrow down. And similarly here, I'm telling it if it wants to make an advanced processor, it has to take an advanced processor assembly and put it into this furnace. And if it wants to make silicon, it needs to put Certus quartz dust in here. Very, very nice, very cool. And now I can automatically craft invar. And by putting it to blocking mode, which I'm hoping these are all in blocking mode. Okay, now they are. Didn't really use that one much before. By putting it in blocking mode, I make sure that if I happen to make 2 induction smelter recipes at the same time, so I'm trying to run, say, electrum and invar at the same time, it might get confused and, for example, try to put iron in and then gold, because it's mixing up the recipes. And by setting it to blocking mode, if there's anything in here, it won't put anything else in here. That makes sure that such mistakes don't happen. Now, I have some invar on me. I also have some sticks on me, so I can now tell it how to make the invar axe. Quite simple. Standard axe pattern. Encode that. And now he should know everything required for the harvester. I've taught it, yeah, it knows everything, so I can now encode this. And now if I want to make harvesters, which I think I need, came up with the number of 8. I think 8. 8 should work, yeah. So I'm searching in here for the harvester, and I'm telling it, okay, make me 8 of those. Begin. And the first 2 were simple because he had the invar in the system, but now to make more of them, he's basically having to make invar. Once that's done, the rest is all simple crafting. And in just a moment that'll be finished. And in just the same way, I am going to set up the planter, because I'm getting copper. I know to make pistons, plastic sheets, all that's not a problem. The only thing I really need is the flower pot. So I need 2 clay. And I'll just abuse this furnace here because it's closer. And that gives me a brick. And so I'm telling this system here, hey, you know what? That's totally how you make bricks. And then I also tell it how to make flower pots. And the flower pot goes in here. And the brick the brick crafting obviously has to happen in a furnace, so that goes in here. And now I should get some copper. And you might notice I'm getting 2 kinds of copper. I'll fix that in between episodes. There's a... I'll show you how to do it after that, basically showing you the finished product again. And now that should be everything I need for the planter. I think that I just want to make sure that the correct type of copper is being used. It shouldn't matter. It should use the ore dictionary, so if it's the wrong kind of copper, it should be ignored in the crafting, but I don't know, I just like to be on the safe side, basically. And so everything that's required for this should also be in the system, so I can now tell it, okay, you know what, I need planters. So how about you make me 8 of those as well? And I can type in a number here as well. I just prefer to use the button so I don't have to use the keyboard, which is loud. And then here it'll go. Okay, I'm making bricks, and once he's done making bricks, he'll decide he needs to make flower pots. Because of the huge crafting setup I have here, it'll be very quick on all the standard crafting. It will be a little slow on the smelting, of course, because, well, it takes a smelting time. But the actual crafting is very fast. Actually, I should check. Didn't I make a bunch of 64K storages? I did not. I will now. And sometimes it forgets that it's supposed to auto-craft things when you log out, for example. And I added 2 more of these ME drives and a bunch of these 64K storage devices. Because the 4K ones they were running slightly low. And as you can see, the orange means that it's getting very full, and the red means that it's completely full. So using 4096 out of 4096 bytes. Quite a few full drives here. And I should probably talk about one more thing so it doesn't get lost in the process. Let's see, do I have something that I will end up having a ton of, but that I want to keep in the system? I guess I'll use an example and just show you how to do it, and then not actually do it. So, for example, I know I have a ton of iron in the system, and I will always be having a ton of iron in the system. I can use this partition editor to very much specify what sort of item is supposed to go on this storage device. So, for example, I could name this iron and tell it that it's only accepting items listed here. So this device could only take iron, which means if the system has iron, it'll try putting it into this drive because nothing else can go there. And I can use that to specify on which storage device certain things are being stored. I don't really need the iron device yet, so that's just to show you how that works. And that allows me to, actually I'll show you where I've done it. On this 1K storage device I've got these sieving ores. So that's all of the broken and pulverized and crushed ores that I get from the sieving. These will instantly get processed as soon as I've got 4 of any of them. So I know there's a bunch of these items, 27 in total, that I will never have a lot of. There will be maybe sometimes, if the system's a little backlogged, there will be 20 of one. But usually they will be below 10, below 4 actually. So if these get put on random drives, they will end up taking a lot of space because the drive takes a fair amount of bytes to specify a new type of item. So instead I've said, I don't need a lot of space to store these, I just need a lot of types, basically. So I'm saying, okay, these all go on this drive, it's only a 1K storage, it's the smallest there is, but I don't need a lot of those things, I just need tons of types. And so I just set that one up to contain all of these sieving ores, which saves up a lot of space from the rest of the system. And you can do very similar things using that partition editor. I hope that was clear. If there's any questions, as always, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm trying to find a balance between explaining everything in great detail and making these slightly interesting. Now I made the harvester, I made the planter. I'm hoping these are done now. You should now be crafting... these here are there for reasons not really relevant, but as he's constantly trying to craft these aluminum ore gravels, for example, he has these in the menu. There's just a lot of these because I'm automatically importing them to places. So let me just get through these, and here we are on the storage devices. He's having to make silicon, so he needs to smelt that. Then he needs to make the basic assemblies. Then he needs to smelt those. It takes a long time to make these in the automatic system, but he should be through with the planters and harvesters. So, harvester. And planter. Yep, 8 of each. And I will now make a cut and set up the relevant... Actually, no, before I make that cut, I should just very quickly show you that you can also use this system to store fluids, which requires these 64K fluid storages, or smaller versions thereof. These are added by Extra Cells, which is an add-on to the Applied Energistics mod. And that allows you to also use the AE system to deal with fluids. And in order to take advantage of that, really, I have to make a fluid terminal, which I did. The fluid storage monitor is not relevant, it's just I can specify a certain type of liquid and this will directly show me how much of it I have. But right now there's no fluids in the system. But there will be. As you know, the harvester, for example, produces sludge. So I will have to pump some sludge through my system. I think I will do that next, so there will be a bit of a cut, and I don't quite know where. I'll probably be building another reactor, actually. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I need to make up some graphite. Okay, anyway, I'll be making a cut and showing you what I've done afterwards, so I'll see you in a bit. And I'm back. The game is still a bit choppy, don't quite know why. Supposedly the frame rate is steady, but well, it's only counting frames per second. And so if the first half of a second doesn't get any frames, and the second half gets its full 60 frames, that would average out to 30 frames per second, which would be fine, but you would notice the lagginess. I'm hoping it's okay. I can't really do much about it, as I've said. Now I've set up stuff over here. So build a fifth reactor, actually. I think I'm still positive on the Yellorium, so that's nice. I can take down all these torches because I put up chandeliers, which make it so that mobs can't spawn. Now each of these has its own planter. Cotton seeds here, for example, and its own harvester, each with a tin upgrade, which is exactly what's required to harvest these 9x9 farms. I'm putting down reeds or sugar canes in the center, so I get a steady income of those as well. This one, for example, is supposed to plant spice leaf. I don't need much spice leaf anymore, a few hundred maybe. But I just want to automate those, and when I have enough, I will just change that to grow probably lettuce. Because lettuce I need a ton of. And up here I will not be placing the reed, I think. This one's for melons. I need juice for one of the quests. And a lot of it too. And melons just give a lot per block. You get, what, 3 to 7 melon slices per melon block you break? And this pattern here isn't good for a standard melon farm where you manually go in from time to time to harvest. But it is good for an automatic one because each of the stems has up to 4. The ones at the corners and edges don't, but the center ones, they all have 4 dirt blocks to which they can spread their melon, which I think increases the speed. Now each of the melons that does spawn obviously takes up to 4 of these stalks, which would be bad, but the harvester instantly harvests them, or very quickly harvests them, wow, which makes it so that they aren't occupied for very long, which means they can start making melons again very quickly. What's in here? In here's oak saplings. I still need a ton of oak wood, so that's why I have that. In here is rubber saplings because I always need rubber. In here I'm going to try these sakura saplings, which are very nice trees and have nice wood. I am not 100% certain that the planters and the harvesters work with these particularly well. I guess we'll see. If not, I'll have to manually grow these, but they are really quite nice. Now, in order to power this whole thing, and can't get out from this way. In order to power this whole thing, I'm using tesseracts. I've set the 5th reactor up to pump energy into a tesseract at frequency 1. So if I was gonna say something. I've also set up a sludge boiler, but that's not active yet. It's going to work, it's got power, but I don't have anything pumping in the fluids yet. I'll probably show you that just very quickly. This tesseract here is where all my items come in. That's the something, the frequency 1 receiving tesseract, so it's receiving items and fluid, and it's not sending anything. The fluids that it's receiving will get pumped into one of these tanks. I have set up 2 just in case there's 2 liquids coming in, which might be the case later on. And these should be imported into my system with these fluid import buses. And then the system itself has, let me just go somewhere where I can click it. Inside the system I have 2 liquid storage devices, these ME64K fluid storages. Each of them can store up to 5 fluid types, and here's the second one by the way, and 65,000 bytes, which translates to a lot. I don't know the exact amount, but it's tens of thousands of buckets, so I think we'll be fine for the moment, since most of the sludge should be processed immediately once I've got the sludge boiler set up. Okay, so I believe this is actually ready to go. I will have to check back from time to time. This one, by the way, here, because it's got the melons above it, this doesn't actually have an import set, because it doesn't need to replant anything, it just harvests the blocks, so this planter is not doing anything. As I said, I'll have to check back from time to time to make sure I'm getting the relevant seeds, otherwise I'll have to set up something a little sneaky, but that's not difficult. And now these tesseracts, I'll just start with the one up here. So I'm going to set this to the frequency 1, and I want it to be sending items, because any items output by the harvester are supposed to be sent through it. It's supposed to also send fluids, that's the sludge that is produced by the harvesters, and it's supposed to receive energy, because that's what I'm sending through the frequency. And ta-da! It now has power. And this one should too, which means he's going through and actually making the melon blocks disappear. He's harvesting them. And the sludge also gets transferred out, which is very nice. Okay, now let's get here and do the same thing. So send items, send fluids, and receive energy on that frequency. And now the planter and the harvester are both going. It'll take a little while for these saplings to grow, of course, and I remember I can't go through the center. I have to go around because things are in the way. And also, just to be on the safe side, I moved my bed, but I haven't slept in it yet, so I'm not certain. I don't think it's night time. But if I die now, I respawn in the void, which is bad. Because my standard respawn point is broken, obviously. Okay, so this does seem to work. A tree has grown and it's been harvested by the looks of it. I'll wait here for just a second, see if I can... Actually, I should probably just get some bone meal, right? I've put up some more of these terminals. I can have more than one, and if they're connected to the network, I can access the entire network from them. So, but before I go upstairs to check out the tree, I will set you to the same thing. So, sending items and fluid, receiving energy on that frequency. Same thing for you, sending items and fluid, receiving energy on that frequency. And this should all be working perfectly. Spice leaf, cotton, And I just need something to make string and wool, so that's why I went for cotton. I think in the long run I won't need it because I'll set up something with sheep, but for the moment that's really what I'm needing it for. And let me get out of here. Okay, I'm hoping for a big one because these ones look... Yeah, see these? They are these sort of cherry trees that are associated with Asian countries, I guess. Sort of the Japanese cherry blossom things. At least that's where I know them from, so... And they look amazing. And they have very nice wood, which I will probably use as a building material eventually, once I actually start some building. Now, I should go... Firstly, take my sugarcanes and my bone meal. And boy, is it getting a little laggy, but I think that's partially caused by that stuff over there, which I'm going to pretty much... Well, not quite yet, but I'm very soon going to remove all that stuff over there, because it's no longer needed. I should check for melons? No, not melons. I was certain I had something I wanted to check for. Oh, that's going very fast. Another one already grew. So trees are very, very good with those farms. Oh, the sludge boiler, right. So I have a fluid terminal right here, which tells me I have 22 buckets of sludge already. So I'm filling a bucket with it. The reason why is because I need to set this fluid export bus to actually pump fluid into my sludge boiler. And that should now be working. Problem is if I get too close I'll get poisoned. Yeah, it's working. I'll have to see if in the long run it can keep up. So one sludge boiler, I'm not certain if that's enough. I guess we'll see. Currently it has a bit of a backlog to go through because the farms have already been running for a bit and he has a lot of sludge in the system. So I'll go downstairs, and I still haven't built a non-jetpack way of getting here, but I will eventually. And I can take the sludge bucket and transfer it back, and oh, that's bad placement. It means I get poisoned from the... Get out of here. From the sludge boiler, even if it's up there. That's not good. I shall have to change that. And this appears to be actually going up, so I'll need a second sludge boiler. Yes, I know, I'm being damaged. Lardy-lardy-lar. Annoying. I can't eat until the hunger's worn off. So I should probably make myself a little more of that food. I've given the recipe to my autocrafter, so ta-da! Another stack of that. And we'll be switching to meat very soon, don't worry about that. Okay, but I believe this tells us that one sludge boiler isn't enough. Okay, you stop. I said stop. So once this one's burned through all its sludge, I can get there and safely remove it, place it elsewhere. I'll do that off camera. For now I've got tons of space in my system to store the sludge anyway. So that's not a problem. And we should now be getting all the requirements for the Hell's Kitchen stuff. I'll have to check what he does to the cotton. I know the lettuce and the wheat and the spice leaf, they are fine, and he will get both the crop and the seeds, so he will eventually have the planter completely filled, and any excess seeds I can put elsewhere. So those should all be fine. The sapling stuff upstairs and the melons are fine. The cotton, I'm not entirely certain if he gets the seeds as well as the actual cotton. I'll have to check once some of that has grown. Should probably have brought more bone meal. Okay. But that will... These modular farms, 8 of them I've built, they replace the one big one over there. This enables me to have more control over how exactly I want to set this up. And I know they have the filters inside the planters, so that could have been useful, but... are you... Okay, you have full energy. He's just a little slow, okay. Usually the fact that he's chopping down the trees so slowly would mean that he's full of sludge and he's jamming because of that, but it appears to just be that there's a lot of these trees. These tree Sakura? Are they called Sakura? They are Sakura saplings. They always grow into these huge trees. I should be getting a gigantic amount of saplings from those, yeah. Which I will use to produce dirt, and it does look like it's night now. Finally. So I can sleep. I also made one additional change, which I should show you. So I'm not quite sure if I mentioned it last time, but the sieving, and actually the frame lag seems to go away the further I get away from that stuff over there, so all of that will have to be destroyed. The sieving obviously gives me the broken ores, crushed ores, and the pulverized ores. And the pulverized ores are crafted into the dust. And the dust can actually be put in a pulverizer, giving me 2 of the gold dust, pulverized gold stuff, which I can then smelt. So that's my way of doubling that. But you can't put the ore gravel or the ore sand into the pulverizers. So at first I just put them into the furnaces directly, ignoring the fact that I was only getting half the yield. But I've now set it up so that he automatically crafts them into the relevant blocks. So this system here will, for example, it'll craft all the gravel blocks and all the sand blocks combined over these 3 precision export buses, put them into this autonomous activator, which will place them with a right click. So it'll just place them in the world as a block. And the other autonomous activator is filled with diamond hammers, and I have taught my system how to make diamond hammers. So this one, whenever a diamond hammer runs out, he's able to take a new one from the system, and if there isn't one, he's able to craft one. And I'm getting enough diamonds to sustain that easily. And so he's breaking them down by left-clicking with a hammer, and it then gets sucked up into the vacuum hopper, eventually becoming the ore dust, which is then being transformed into the dust blocks and put into the pulverizers. So that way I'm getting quite a lot of metals. And the advantage is I'm getting the thermal expansion versions of the metals. So I still have a fair amount of this stuff that's kind of the wrong version. And this is backing up because the system's still dealing with the lead ore that I put in large quantities. So same with the nether quartz. It's just the system is currently still dealing with more load than it usually would, because I'm bringing the stuff from my old sieving setup over. In the long run, this should work out just fine. Whoa, already on over 700 Sakura wood saplings. Yeah, not saplings, the wood. Wow, that's a ton. I may change that farm to something else fairly soon. Probably lettuce, because I need 50,000 of that. But it seems to be going quite well. Now, you should note that with the tree farms, he's breaking the blocks in a random order, which means from time to time there will be leaves that no longer connect to a tree, like right now. And sometimes, before the harvester can actually get to them and destroy them, they'll decay naturally. And sometimes, when they decay naturally, they drop saplings. So, occasionally there will be saplings lying around these tree farms. That's just a byproduct of how they work. It's not an issue. You get more than enough. So, wow. Quite frankly, I mean, it's nice that it works, but even at this stage, I probably have more of these Sakura trees, saplings, and wood that I ever need. But that's actually nice. I can use that for purposes. Okay, I need to just show you one thing relatively quickly. I'm trying not to make this too long. And again, once I'm over here, so away from the old base, it seems reasonably nice. I mean, it's all fluid. It's fluid, whatever. It's not lagging much. I mean, there's the occasional slight frame drop, but it's all fine. And once I'm loading these areas back there, oh my, does the game not like it. So I'm thinking I will TNT the whole place. I have enough sand and gunpowder, or I will get enough gunpowder. Don't even have 10 stacks yet, but I will place a ton of TNT and light it up just to see the show, which I'm hoping I'll be able to capture, but it's the sort of thing that typically crashes the game. Anyway, do I have some cotton? Not yet, okay. So I'll observe how this is all running, and by the time I'll take you back, I'll probably have dealt with the entire backlog, which will have taken hours and hours of waiting for everything to be processed. So don't expect that. Well, I have a lot of pre-produced episodes, so that's probably fine. Also putting all the unused barrels and barrel upgrades in here. And maybe I built a builder's wand. I'll tell you next time how it works, but I used the second recipe. The first one's not really available, but 8 diamonds around a stick gives me a builder's wand, which is very nice for building floating platforms and all that in a skyblock. I'll show you next time how that works. For now, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.